of Israel fell into Chet at Mount Har Sinai, how they pleaded for food after Egypt, how they slandered the land of Israel and Moshe Rabbeinu, how they denied the blessings they had received by provoking fighting. This list reveals how Israel turned their hearts away from Yahweh and then back to Yahweh. We see them eventually following Yahweh through the harshness of the wilderness despite all difficulties. Now, where did Yahweh, listen carefully now, where did Yahweh prepare Israel to take the land? He prepared them in Tel Aviv and Haifa, right? Wrong. He prepared them in the Midbar, or in the wilderness. Where is Yahweh preparing the two houses of Israel today to return to the land? It is Yahshua who is preparing us. It is Yahshua who is revealing to us. It is Yahshua who is doing all the work except showing us our tribal identity. Because if he was showing us what tribe you be from, you'd know what tribe you're from. And if you're an Ephraimite and you claim to be from any tribe, you are guessing and hoping you heard right from the Ruach HaKodesh. Come on. I'm not saying you can't know if Yeshua doesn't tell you, but it's got to be a rhema word, a personal word. Hello? And then you have to wait till the kingdom to find out if it's true. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. Go with me to Yechezkel 20. So who does the refining and the pruning in the wilderness? Yahweh. Who prepares both houses to return? Yahshua. Yahweh. Same one. Yahshua is Yahweh. Amen. Boy, how many people have walked out when I said that? Ezekiel 20:34. Yechezkel 20:34. 572 or 573? 3. Okay. Yechezkel 20:34. Listen carefully. Who's talking now in the first person? Yahweh. I will bring you out from the people. That's from among the Jewish people. And will gather you out of the countries where you are scattered. That's Ephraim. With a mighty hand, with a stretched out arm, and with anger poured out. Does that sound like a familiar term? A mighty hand and an outstretched arm? So the return of both houses of Israel to Yeshua, to their identity, to the revelation of the two houses, and their return to the land of Israel is a repetition of the historical Egyptian redemption. It happens the same way in the same place. We get right with Yahweh in the wilderness of the nations, not in Jerusalem, not in Tel Aviv, not in Haifa. And that is why we are being refined, and we've come to this understanding in the wilderness of the nations. America, spiritually speaking, Puerto Rico, spiritually speaking, Guatemala, spiritually speaking, Europe, spiritually speaking, is the wilderness of the nations. Anything outside Jerusalem and Israel is the wilderness of the nations. Amen. Amen. Now look at this, verse 34. And I will bring, verse 35, I will bring you into the wilderness of the people. What people? Israel. I'm going to do the same thing to you in the end times when I bring you back that I did to your people in the earlier times. I brought you to America. I brought you to China. I brought you to the Philippines. I brought you to Taiwan. Because I wanted to reason with you and get you prepared to return to the land so that you can choose your tribe. Amen. Because where the Spirit of Yahweh is, there is liberty. Amen. Watch this. I'll bring you into the wilderness of the people of Israel, where they got right with me. And there will I plead with you, Panayim el Panayim. There I will plead with you face to face. Like I pleaded with your Avot in the wilderness of the land of Mitzrayim, so will I plead with you, says the Master Yahweh. And I will cause you in the wilderness of the nations to pass under the rod. What rod? The rod of discipline and correction. Exile and correction. And I will bring you into the bond or the security or the guarantee or the surety of the covenant. What covenant? The renewed covenant. Not new, renewed. And I will purge out from among you the rebels. Is that what happened in the wilderness? Yup. I will purge out from among you the rebels, those who transgress against me, I will bring them out of the countries where they sojourn. Circle those words. When we return to Israel, we are like sojourners. Yahweh will take the new covenant, bring us into the covenant in the wilderness of the nations, and He will bring us out of the country. What does Yeshua do? He brings us home. We don't go home to Israel in our timing. He brings us home. But when we're there, we assign the tribal inheritance. Yahweh says, I will bring them out of the countries. Yahweh will end the exile. Yahweh will reveal who you are. Yahweh will give you a hunger to return as a Baal Teshuvah. Where they sojourn, they shall not enter into the land of Israel, and you shall know that I am Yahweh. And they shall not enter. That should be they shall enter. Let me check that. Okay? I will bring them out of the countries where they sojourn, and I will return them to the land of Israel. What's the bottom line? We're going home. Who's bringing us home? Yeshua, Yahweh. Why does He want to bring us home? Because that's where we live. That's where we were originally.
That's where we belong.
That's where we belong. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. But in order to get our attention, Yahweh has to plead with us where? In the wilderness of the nations, where He will cause us to pass under the rod of discipline that brings us into the renewed covenant, so that now we are in covenant with Yahweh, and He will return us to our home. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. And how will He do it? With a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Meaning He will deal with us in discipline and love in the wilderness of exile. So listen, you are right where Yahweh wants you to be, for Yahweh to deal with you right here. It was Yahweh's will for you to find out who you are as Israel right here in Miami, right here in Florida, right here in the south and the southeast of the United States. This is where Yahweh caused you to pass under the rod of the covenant and enter into the bond with Him. And He'll take you from that place of revelation where He'll speak to us face to face. So our exile of nations is not only to discipline us, but to speak to us face to face. This is my Torah. You're an Israelite. You're a king's child. You're a citizen of the Commonwealth of Israel. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. But now, if we go back to Bamidbar 33, quickly. I have a lot to cover, and very little time to do it. Bamidbar 33. If we go through verses 1 through 49, we see in today's Torah Parsha the 42 places where we journeyed from Mitzrayim to the Promised Land. Turn to your neighbor and say 42 places. We made 42 trips from Mitzrayim to the Promised Land. The entire 42 trips all took place where? In the wilderness. Very good. 42 in Scripture, listen, is the number that symbolizes man's full rebellion and opposition to Yahweh, because 6 is the number of man's depravity, falling short of the perfection of 7. Yahweh is the perfect 7, not Bo Derek, who claimed to be the perfect 10. Yahweh is the perfect 7. And man and the anti-Moshiach, the 666 figure of Revelation 13, Gilyana, is symbolized by the figure 666. 6 is the number of man's full rebellion and full depravity against Yahweh. 7 is the number of fullness. Therefore, man's rebellion and rising up against Yahweh will reach its fullness in the 42 trips between Egypt and Israel. But the good news is that's where we meet Yahweh. That's where he pleads with us face to face. That's where he stretches out his arm and shows you you are an Ephraimite wandering, lost in exile. He redeems you by the blood of the Lamb and then puts you in the wilderness to bring you into a fuller revelation and not leave you in Mitzrayim with a partial revelation of personal salvation. Now he brings you into a conscious, collective awareness of the totality of the picture, which is national restitution and repatriation, meaning the two houses will come together as Yahweh chooses us individually, pleads with us in the nations, and when we pleads with us as individuals, we come together as a nation and we return to the land.
Hallelujah.
We come together in the exile to return to the land. So far we do nothing. So far it's all Yahweh. How many journeys did they take? 42. How many did they take on their own accord? 0. When Yahweh said move, they moved. When Yahweh said don't move, they didn't move. Make sense? But I want to look at the meaning of some of these 42 spots. Bamidbar 33, 1 through 49. They went from Ramses, if we look here in verse 5, we start out in Ramses. Ramses means child of the sun. We start out as Israel, as children of sun worship, and we wind up in the journey back in the promised land away from every vestige of sun worship. Hello? Didn't all of us start our journey in the house of Ramses? In the house of sun worship? But now we're Shabbatniks. We're not sun worshipers anymore on Sunday. Now we're Shabbatniks. Then we go to Sukkot, living in tents. Then we went to Etham, sea-bound. Then we went to Migdal. We built towers of our own understanding. And we went to Marah, where we became bitter in our own rebellion and understanding. Elam, the oaks, symbolic of paganism. The pagan idols were always buried under the oak trees. The Red Sea, we crossed the Sea of Reeds. Entrapment, the desert of sin, every pun intended. Dafka means drover. Alush means the crowds of the world, the crowds of the nations. We went to Rephidim, meaning beds. We made our beds with the rebels like Korah against Yahweh. Desert of Sinai means bush. Our behavior and our personality and our understanding was bush league. And then we went to Kivrot Hatava, which means the graves of the lustful. Papa, we don't like this bread. We want steak. I like steak. My mama likes steak. Yahweh says, you like steak? Have enough steak and quails until you croak. So, Kevrat Hatava means the graves of the lustful. That was our forefathers. Pardon me. That was your and my forefathers. Libna means white. We turn white with fear. Risa means dew. That's all we got was the morning dew, not the fullness of the living waters. Then we went to Kihalat. Means the whole congregation went there. Went into these things. Harada, fear. Makalot, congregations of fear. We became fearful congregations. And within the congregation of Israel, we became little tribes, little fearful congregations. Just fascinating? Yeah. Then we went to Tahat, depression. Depression. That would be pretty depressed, being in the wilderness of the nations for 40 years. Then we went to depression and humility. Then Terah, which means to turning and to endure. Then we went to Mitcha, which means sweetness. We went to Hashmona, which means fruitfulness. We started getting our act together. Then we went to Mesorot, which means bonds and discipline. Then we went to Bnei Yachan, meaning the children of Yachan. Then we went to Hor Hagidah, the cleft of the mountain. Then we went to Etzion Geber, meaning a giant backbone. Then we went to Kadesh, meaning holy. Then we went to Mount Hor, meaning a hill. Then we went to Punan, which means precious stone. Then we went to Obat, which means desire. Then we went to Gibeon Gad, wasting away for Yahweh. Then we went to Almon Diblatayim, meaning a hiding place of 2 fig sacks. As the children of Israel got closer and closer and closer to the promised land. We came, one of the last places we came to, as we were getting sweeter and sweeter for Yahweh and learning our wilderness lessons, was a place called Almon Diblatayim. Hello? Almon Diblatayim means the hiding place of two sacks. As in, two houses. Then we went to the mountains of Aviram, meaning the mountains beyond. Then we went to Bet Cheshmot, which means the house of deserts. Then to Avel Shittim, meaning the meadow brook of the acacias. What's the point? The point is each of these cities and each of these journeys was with a purpose. We didn't just take 42 vacations in the wilderness. Every one of our journeys was to learn a lesson that Yahweh wanted us to learn. Amen. And that's why we're in America. That's why we're we have Americans in Saudi Arabia. That's why we have Americans all over the place, in all the lands of the exiles. So that we will learn our lessons. And these cities are indicative of lessons that we needed to learn. Now, in Bamidbar 33, verses 50 to 56, listen carefully without reading it. Bamidbar 33, let's start in verse 50. Well, let's read it, because we need to. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe in the plains of Moab by the Jordan near Yericho. And Yahweh said, how many wilderness journeys did they take? 42, symbolic of full rebellion and depravity in its fullness against divine government and Yahweh. And all these different names, sweet, bitter, bush, blah, 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 blah. All the characteristics that Yahweh was putting in us and taking out of us. Taking out the Ra and putting in the Tov. All these journeys had names. Abraham, every journey had a name. Are you with me? One journey was to put sweetness in place of bitterness. Another was to put discipline instead of weakness. Another journey was to put bitterness before we would appreciate the waters of sweetness. Hello? Ultimately, the last place was the plains of Moab, and the two houses, what would become the two houses, were about to enter the land. So far, how much work have the people of Israel done? How will the exile of the two houses in the nations end? According to Yechezkel chapter 20. When Yahweh brings us into the wilderness of the nations and pleads with us face to face and causes us to pass under the rod of his eternal renewed covenant, and he will do it with an outstretched arm and his redemption. So far as in those days, Yahweh's done it all. How much have we done up till this point? Zero. He revealed our identity. He revealed our Israelite heritage. He revealed our connection to the Hebrews. He revealed our future home. He gave us a desire to return home. He gave us a desire to be Baal Teshuvah. He gave us a desire to make Aliyah to the land. He has done it all. Amen. Now look here. But that ended. That pattern ended. When did that pattern end? Look at verse 51. Moshe, you speak to the children of Israel. Bamidbar 33:51. Numbers 33:51. Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when you pass over Jordan into the land of Canaan, then you will drive out all the inhabitants of the land before you and destroy all their stone images, destroy all their molded images, and demolish all their high places. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. In your entry into the Israelite lifestyle, you better be ready to crush every image of grandma and grandpa that doesn't line up with the word of Yahweh. Amen. If you're willing to leave any stone unturned, you might be tripped up by that stone you fail to turn over. If you're going to do this thing and be an Israelite, it must reflect in your clothing, meaning your friends are going to make fun of you. In the way you eat, meaning people in the restaurant are going to laugh at you. You're going to be limited in your dining choices. You're going to be limited in what public facilities you can and cannot use. In school, you'll stick out like a sore thumb. Your classmates will laugh at you. But if you leave any stone unturned, it'll come back to trip you up. If you're going to settle the promised land, you've got to be willing, Yahweh says, to destroy all molded images, all high places, and all things that may trip you up. And you can, by the way, you can be different and not be weird. Weird is the way you act. You could dress different, listen to different music, pray different, have different friends. You could be set apart, kadosh, and different without being weird. Okay? Don't equate different, being separate, with being weird. That's your thinking. That's not Yahweh's thinking. Speak to the children of Israel and say,